When the millionaire yelled at his secretary, her shocking reply left the entire office in tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Thursday, just like any other, but the air felt electric. The office was buzzing. Phones rang, papers rustled, and the hum of chatter filled the space. Then came the scream. Derek, our boss, stormed in, his face a storm cloud. "What is this?" he bellowed, slamming a thick file onto the desk. The sound reverberated through the room like thunder. Everyone froze. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a wild drumbeat of fear. I was sitting at my desk, just a few feet away, gripping my pen so tightly my knuckles turned white. Danielle, my colleague, looked like a deer caught in headlights. Her eyes were wide, glistening with unshed tears. Shed worked tirelessly to compile that report, pouring her heart into every line. And now, Derek's voice cut through our camaraderie like a knife. "This is unacceptable." In that moment, the room was silent. It felt like time stopped. We all held our breath, waiting for the storm to pass. But instead, something unexpected happened. As Derek's eyes glared into hers, Danielle stood tall. Her hands trembled, but she didn't back down. "I'm sorry you feel that way," she replied, her voice steady. It was a shocking reply, one that echoed through the office like a drop of water in a calm lake, expanding in ripples. Everyone leaned in, breath hitching. You could almost taste the tension in the air, thick and sour. I felt a lump rise in my throat, the weight of the moment pressing down on us all. Derek looked taken aback, mouth agape. His face reddened, but Danielle continued, her voice a melody of strength. "I did my best. I thought we were a team." Gasps filled the room, whispers curling through the office like smoke. I could hear my heart hammering louder with each passing second. The power dynamics were shifting, and we all felt it. Who was this woman standing against the raging storm? What was happening? Everyone was in awe. Derek's eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but none came. Our colleagues shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to do. I caught a glimpse of Lisa biting her lip, her eyes reflecting the tension. Would she stand with Danielle? Would anyone? Then Derek snapped back, his anger morphing into something darker, simmering just below the surface. "You're fired," he shouted, and it felt as if the ground had just given way beneath us. Daniela's face fell, but it was the slow, measured way she inhaled, like the world had frozen around us. The silence. It was unbearable. We all exchanged glances, horror and disbelief flooding our eyes. Would she really walk away? My fingers twitched as excitement mixed with dread. But then came the twist. "I quit," she declared, and the air shifted yet again. That single statement held the weight of her dreams, sacrifices, and plans. Even the air felt different, charged with the promise of freedom and uncertainty. Could it really be? I was on the edge of my seat, feeling that electric buzz again, my heart racing as I saw her turn away, the newfound light surrounding her. The murmurs faded, and we were left with questions. What would she do next? What would happen to us? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The aftermath of Daniela's departure hung over the office like a heavy fog. Conversations dwindled to whispers, and the once busy hive of activity now felt like a mausoleum echoing with unspoken fears. I sat at my desk, the screen glaring at me, but my thoughts wandered. I replayed the moment she stood up to Derek over and over again, her resolve igniting something unfamiliar within me, an ember of courage. But with courage came uncertainty. Would her boldness inspire others, or would it merely lead to a deeper divide? As the day dragged on, I couldn't shake the image of her resolute stance against the tide. The office was split. Some rallied around the idea of standing against Derek, while others whispered doubts about the security of their jobs, Lisa approached my desk, her brows knitted in worry. "What do you think will happen now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I've never seen anyone stand up to him like that before." An uncomfortable silence settled between us. I wished I had the words to reassure her, to suggest a path forward. Instead, we both returned to our screens, the oppressive atmosphere weighing heavily on our shoulders. Each keystroke felt like a reminder of the change that had just swept through the office, and it made me restless. In the days that followed, nothing was the same. Derek's fury boiled beneath the surface, ready to erupt at the slightest provocation. He was on edge, snapping at any minor mistake, creating an environment steeped in fear. I couldn't shake the nagging thought that he was unhinged, as if Daniela's departure had unlocked some violent aspect of his character that had been dormant until now. One afternoon, he stormed into a meeting and glared at the team gathered around the conference table. "This is a mess. Where's the leadership? Where's the professionalism?" His voice dripped with disdain as he raked his eyes over each of us, but amidst the turmoil, something extraordinary happened. Miles, the usually quiet IT guy, finally piped up. "With all due respect, sir, that's not fair. We've been doing our best, trying to hold things together after what happened." He stumbled through the words, each syllable a battle. Derek's confidence faltered, his mouth snapping shut as if someone had flipped a switch. Silence descended around the table, and for a fleeting moment, we were united in hope, buoyed by a shared belief that we could push back against the storm. Then, like a lion who has been wounded, he responded with a quick bark, silencing Miles just as swiftly, but I sensed something had shifted. Seedlings of resistance were sprouting, and it filled me with cautious optimism. On my way home that evening, I spotted a flyer taped to a lamppost outside the office building. "Community Action Meeting. Stand up for workers' rights." My heart quickened at the thought. Could this be an avenue for change? I ripped the paper off the post, clutching it as I walked away, driven by a sense of purpose I hadn't felt before. The following morning, I arrived early and pinned the flyer on the communal board in the break room, hoping it might catch someone's eye. To my surprise, Lisa approached it first, her fingers tracing the bold letters. "Are you going to go?" she asked, and sparkle of interest igniting in her eyes. "I think we need to see what could happen," I replied, my pulse quickening at the prospect of starting a rallying cry among US.as days unfolded. More and more coworkers seemed to gravitate toward the idea, emboldened by the prospect of solidarity. Returning to work felt different, charged with a sense of purpose. Each day, as I worked, I witnessed small moments that suggested hope. Seemingly frail smiles grew in confidence, tentative resolutions formed amongst our team, but then, amid this budding unity, an unexpected atmosphere of dread loomed. One afternoon, I overheard Derek on a call, his voice laced with venom. "Find someone to replace her. I won't let this stand. I need to regain control." His words made my heart race. The gravity of our situation collided against the fragile scaffolding of hope we had started to build. The first meeting approached fast. My mind swirled with anticipation and fear. Would anyone show up? Would we be able to make a difference? As I stood outside the venue that night, nervous energy crackling around me, I scanned the faces in the crowd. Rows of strangers stood under the dim glow of streetlights, their eyes reflecting a shared determination. With a deep breath, I stepped into the throng, my heart pounding in tune with the fear blossoming in my chest, when suddenly my phone buzzed. A text from Lisa read, "I think Derek has been spying on us. I just saw him talking to someone outside the office." It didn't feel right. My throat constricted with sudden shock as reality set in once more. This wasn't just about standing up against a bully, it was about navigating an ever-deepening conflict that threatened not just our jobs, but our very sense of safety. The night was dark and murky with uncertainty, but one thing was certain: we were in for a fight, and we had yet to see just how fierce it would become. The air felt different the next day, thick with tension as I walked into the office. The usual chatter was absent, replaced instead by hushed voices and furtive glances. My heart raced at the thought of the meeting Derek had called. With every step toward my desk, I could practically feel the weight of his gaze, the threat of his unpredictable rage lurking just out of sight. As I sat down, Lisa slid into the chair next to me, her expression grave. "Did you hear what happened to Carla?" The words fell from her lips like stones, heavy and terrifying. "She was just trying to speak up, and Derek, what did he do?" I interrupted, dread already pooling in my stomach. "They say he didn't yell, not this time. He just looked at her. Then he told her to know her place and sent her home for the rest of the week." I leaned back, disbelief washing over me. This wasn't the same Derek we'd tried to endure. This was a man whose influence was weakening at the edges. The more power we gained, the more he seemed to feel threatened. My thoughts danced around the implications, each consequence lodging itself painfully within me. "That could be any of us next," I murmured, believing each word. But with the fear gnawing continually at my insides, a flicker of resolve steeled me. "We have to act, and fast," I replied, leaning closer to Lisa. "If we wait, we're just giving him power over us." Nodding, her eyes cracked with a flicker of recognition. "Tonight? We meet after work?" Before I could reply, Derek stalked into the room, his presence demanding silence. His usual tailored suit seemed even sharper today, stiff as the atmosphere around him. I bit my lip, suppressing a gasp as he spat out orders, his voice laced with authority and menace. He finished his tirade with a dismissive wave, barking, "Get back to work," before turning sharply on his heel. In those brief moments, I saw him fear, perhaps even worry, creased his forehead. He wasn't unassailable. He was just loud. The idea prickled something deep within me. Was a man like him holding us all captive? The day crawled by, my mind strained under the weight of uncertainty and the urgent need for a plan. Lunch felt like an eternity away, with every tick of the clock serving as a countdown to our possible demise. When it finally came, I found solace in the small corners of our break room, enveloped by the warmth of shared whispers from my colleagues. "Tomorrow, we'll figure something out," Miles said with more conviction than I had felt all day. With that simple statement, the air shifted again, a collective breath held on the cusp of hope. "I'm sick of this tyranny." The camaraderie that had been forged in the community center meeting pulsed once more, igniting a spark of strength. And yet, just as hope glimmered, another grim specter of reality reared its head. As the day drew to a close, Lisa's phone chimed softly, and her face blanched. "It's Carla," she whispered, pressing the phone to her ear. Everyone turned their attention, the tension filling every breath amongst us as we leaned in. Her expression twisted, the color draining from her face as she listened. "What, are you serious?" she replied, her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and fear. After a brief silence, she hung up, her hand shaking slightly. "What did she say?" I pressed, urgency clawing at my throat. "She overheard Derek talking with upper management. They're planning to implement new policies that could severely limit our hours, effectively lowering our pay. He wants to break us before we can rally against him." The weight of her words landed with a heavy thud, a reality so bleak, I struggled to keep my composure. The fire of determination flickered within me, but it was overshadowed by the immense challenge looming ahead. "Tomorrow, we need to push harder," Miles declared. "We can't let this happen." But just as he spoke, a jarring thought hit me. The meeting that Derek had scheduled with upper management tomorrow, what if he was trying to secure his last defense? We were racing against time, not just for our jobs, but for our very livelihood. As I looked around, seeing the resolve written on everyone's faces, I knew this was it. We had to band together, to push back even harder. And then, as if sensing the collective anxiety that clung to us, an unexpected knock broke the tension. A figure stood hesitantly at the door, their identity obscured in the dim light of the break room. "Can I come in?" The timid voice rang out, and everyone turned, shock rippling through us. It was Carla, looking frail but undeterred. But as she stepped inside, the weight of the moment shifted. She held in her hands a folder filled with documents, her face set with something I had never seen before, a determination that eclipsed everything else. "I've got something. We can't let this happen," she declared, her voice steady. A ripple of anticipation washed over the room, an unexpected alliance weaving through our broken threads. But before she could continue, I caught a glimpse of something moving beyond the glass door. Derek, glaring at the scene before him, his expression twisted into a mix of confusion and rage. In that heartbeat, I realized the danger we were in. Just as we clung to hope, it seemed Derek was prepared to unleash his fury at the perceived threat. And as I stood there, caught between fear and a fierce longing for change, I knew everything was about to teeter on the edge of chaos. The air in the conference room grew thick with suspense as I stood there, my heart pounding against my ribcage, each thud echoing the fear that had swelled for weeks. Derek loomed like a shadow, casting doubt and division across a space that had once been filled with camaraderie and hope. I looked around, seeing the faces of my colleagues, some teetering on the edge of despair, others ignited with a flicker of fierce determination. Derek's smirk faltered as he continued, "I'm sure you all want to hear your precious Ethan's little story. But I'll tell you this. Each one of you is standing on the brink of losing everything. There's no place for failure in this industry, and that's why this meeting is pivotal." I felt Lisa's hand squeeze mine, an unspoken resolution coursing through her. "We won't let him turn us against each other," I whispered, trying to imbue my voice with strength. "It doesn't matter what he thinks. Truth and integrity will prevail." But just then, Ethan spoke up, his voice unwavering. "This isn't just about us anymore, Derek. It's about the ethics of how this company operates. We deserve to know where our funds are going and who is really behind these discrepancies." As he finished his statement, I witnessed a profound shift in the room. The board members, once merely spectators, were beginning to lean in to listen. A palpable energy began to unfurl the tension that had dominated for far too long. Even Susan, caught in the crossfire of allegiance, flickered a nod of approval to Ethan. Derek's jaw clenched. "You think this is going to end well for you?" He spat, stepping closer to Ethan, pushing back against the tide of momentum shifting toward an unexpected reckoning. Ethan, undeterred by the threat, responded, "You can intimidate us, but it won't change the truth." With a flash of bravery, I joined him, my voice rising above the cacophony of murmurs. "We deserve dignity in our workplace, and if that means standing up against you, then that's what we'll do." The silence was electric, and for the first time, the undercurrent of fear was replaced by courage swelled in the hearts of my colleagues, rippling with momentum. One by one, voices joined the chorus, affirmations of our resolve spilling into the air. "We need to protect our jobs and our integrity. Derek, you can't get away with this." Standing together, we looked like a growing storm, a shared spirit of rebellion coalescing before Derek's glowering eyes. But just as our unity rose, ready to challenge the chaos he represented, a sound at the back of the room stilled us all. Someone had clicked on the projector, revealing a document that laid bare the evidence we were clinging to. In an instant, the shift was palpable. Gasps echoed off the walls as the figures illuminated on the screen rendered Derek's bravado a husk of its former self. Each number, each transaction presented a case for honesty, not just a revolt against Derek, but a reclamation of our pride and purpose. His fury turned to panic as the truth unfolded before the board members. Whispers began to ripple through the room. The truth that had once felt like a mountaintop now unveiled a valley of shared struggle and solidarity. "Enough," Derek bellowed, the authority in his voice a waning fraction of its former power. But it was too late. The room had made its choice. The narrative was shifting, and along with it, the tide of destiny. Suddenly, the doors swung wide, and several men in suits entered. One stepped forward. It was the head of upper management. "We've been monitoring the situation closely, Derek," he stated, his voice clear and authoritative. "This is serious. We need to investigate these allegations." Derek's weakness seeped into his bravado as he stammered, "This is absurd. This is a witch hunt." The reality of the moment, the sheer power of truth unfolding, struck me hard. All at once, the battle we'd fought came to head hard, and I stood in awe of the resilience blossoming in our ranks. My heart swelled with a fierce pride for my colleagues. We were no longer alone. Amidst the chaos, a soft voice cut through, its warmth filling every crack of concern. "We have to be brave. We've been through too much to back down now. Together, we'll face this even if it means fighting against one of our own." Ethan turned to me, his eyes holding a depth of understanding that felt unbreakable, a silent agreement to weather the hardest of storms together. The collective resolve pulsed through my veins, igniting passion for our cause unlike anything I had felt before. The men in suits murmured to one another, finding their bearings, weighing the evidence as we stood, a united front regarding the ramifications of Derek's actions, the truth bursting forth with an unrelenting force. And I could see understanding dawn on several faces, recognition that transcended the guise of indifference or delusion. And in that moment, as our trembling hearts united against a common foe, I understood. Our courage was Alevites what brought us here. We had summoned our voice, confronted our worst fears, and emerged, together, stronger than we'd ever been before. Derek's mask slipped further away, revealing raw panic as he assessed the room. "You'll all regret this," he shouted, but it rang hollow, the defeat apparent. As I stood in that fragile moment of unity, I felt an overwhelming wave wash over me, a certainty that we had not only fought for our jobs, but for something much greater, a chance to reclaim our worth and rewrite the narrative that had diminished our voices for too long. It was then that I realized Derek wasn't just fighting to maintain control. He was terrified because he knew the tide had turned. And as the lights dimmed in that room, enveloping us in a blanket of darkness, I whispered to Ethan, to my colleagues, the burning words that had finally risen to the surface of my soul: "Together, we will rise." And with that, I felt the spark ignite once more, lighting a path forward from the shadows of uncertainty into the relentless dawn of hope that awaited us all.